When I opened my eyes, I was met with a splitting headache. My brain felt 3 sizes too big for its cage. My bones hummed. My blood hurt. It was about all I could do to keep my dinner inside my stomach. I couldn't tell how far we were from where we started. This was definitely still the underground hangar. The only thing different about it now was all the bodies. There were dozens of them down here with us, leaning against the columns, sprawling out on the floors, shoved against the walls, naked, pink-skinned humanoids. The meat golems. It was hard to know for sure just how many of them were down here because, as I had just realized, I was tied in place with my back against one of the concrete cylinder columns. "He's awake," Rosa said. Across from me, about 10 feet away, Jerry was yawning. He too was sitting with his back against a column, tied in place. Caddy corner was Rosa, likewise bound. The 3 of us were in a triangle facing one another but separated, and in the center of the triangle, another meat golem, face down and immobile. "What happened?" I asked. Bing! The sound came from the lamp, which was now lit green, above the metal rectangle in the wall to my left. It rose with the speed of a garage door, slowly revealing the man who had shot us earlier. When the doorway was fully clear, he proceeded into the room, carrying something that resembled an oversized briefcase in one hand. There was a white cloth covering all but the handle grip. He whistled as he took his spot at the column directly opposite Rosa. There, he set down the sheet-covered item, then turned to face us. "How are we all feeling?" he asked. Jerry shrugged. "Not too bad." "A little groggy," Rosa said. My answer was the outlier. I feel like day-old death after it's been reheated in the microwave. The scientist flinched when I spoke. "You're awake again?" "Again?" "Yeah, you kept screaming about Skull World. We had to shoot you 6 more times just to tie you up. These tranks are designed to drop a charging elephant. You should be in a coma right now. How are you even alive?" "It's a long story." "You know you bit one of the soldiers." Jerry snickered and gave me a good job head nod. "Why are we here?" Rosa demanded. The scientist relaxed into a smile. "I'm sure you've got a lot of questions, as do we. I've convinced the others to let you live, but only as long as you cooperate. First things first. Who else knows you're here?" This was shaping up to be another classic interrogation. The correct answer to all these questions was going to be whatever gave them a reason to not kill us. "Joe!" said Jerry. "Joe? Joe who?" the man asked. "Joe Mama?" "And where might I find this Joe Mama?" He really didn't seem to get the joke. Jerry kept going. "He lives down in Ligma." "Ligma?" the science repeated. "Where is that?" "Let me just stop you both right there," I said. I knew if I didn't interrupt the joke, we'd be here all night, or until the scientist snapped and killed us, whichever came first. You're not going to get any useful information out of him. He suffers from a mental condition that makes him unable to recall any specific information about anything. In fact, if you let him go right now, he'd forget all about this before he reached the exit. Poor thing. We're always so worried about him. Jerry played along, smiling wide and letting drool spill out of his mouth as he looked at me and said, "Who are you? Where am I? What does the fox say?" The scientist chuckled. "While I applaud the Hail Mary maneuver, it isn't going to work. We already know exactly who you are. The United States' dossiers on all 3 of you." He approached me first, sized me up and said, "Jack Townsend, mentally troubled man with a shady past." "That's a bit of an oversimplification," I mumbled. He kept going, walking up to Jerry and saying, "Jeremy Pascal, presumed dead, former cult leader / adult film star." "Perfect," Jerry said. "That's me distilled into 9 words. He approached Rosa next. "Rosa Vasquez. Actually, you don't have anything out of the ordinary in your file. I'm wondering, how did you end up with these hooligans?" "The United States?" Rosa replied. "So this is some kind of secret government facility? Oh man, did you hear that, Jack? The Creepcast guys are going to absolutely love this part." "Not necessarily," I responded. "They really hate slow vanilla reveals." "Oh, that's right," she said. "But you can probably just, leave out all the boring stuff when you write about it later, right?" I shook my head. "It just doesn't work that way." "Yo!" Jerry yelled, getting everyone's attention. "If you're gonna kill us, would you... At least tell us what the hell's going on here first? The mad scientist laughed to himself as he finished walking the circle, ending right back where he started, next to the small case under the white sheet. Then he did that thing that mad scientists are wont to do. He monologued. My name is Dr. Gordon Orson, and I was hired by your government to fight a secret war you people don't even realize is occurring. There's a cultural shift underfoot. China, Russia, all the superpowers have been experimenting with this technology for decades. But it wasn't until recently that the new arms race, one the likes of which our planet has never seen, really began. The world is changing whether we're prepared for it or not. But it was Thailand, of all countries, that launched the first attack. And then, in turn, Scotland entered the battlefield. Wait, I said. Surely you're not talking about, of course I am, he exclaimed. At this point, he bent down and ripped the sheet off of the kennel cage, and now we could all see the tiny creature waddling back and forth in the most adorable way possible. Aww, said Rosa involuntarily. She couldn't help herself. The power of its cuteness was too overwhelming. Fuck, said Jerry. What a shitty time to not be recording for social media. I looked at Gordon in disbelief. Then I looked back at the creature. Then back at Gordon. A baby hippo? I asked. Jerry corrected me. Actually, dude, I think it's a baby pygmy hippo. You fools! Shouted Dr. Gordon. There's no such thing as a pygmy hippo. You think God in his infinite wisdom would create such a stunted beast? No, this was the work of science, commitment, obsession. Our tax dollars hard at work, I muttered. That, Jerry added, is precisely why I don't pay taxes. Can I pet him? Rosa asked. You still don't get it, do you? Cried Gordon, growing increasingly manic and unhinged with each passing second. This chimera is an intricately woven masterpiece of what shouldn't be but is. I had to patch the amino acids together myself using DNA samples from vampire bats, mosquitoes, sharks, piranhas, dinosaurs, and at least one serial killer. The result was this: a perfect apex predator. A brand new species. I call them the Ors. I rolled my eyes. You named the species after yourself? Aw, Jerry said, walking towards the tank. Look at him, his little snoot. Someone wants a boopin'. The scientist continued. The first few experiments were total failures, but then this little girl came along, and I knew she was special the moment her egg hatched. And not just because her skin was several shades darker than the rest of her siblings. I instantly looked at her and I said, well, that's an Ors of a different color. Rose's cuteness confusion broke. She looked back at the scientist and screamed, No! Don't say that! The Creepcast guys are going to shit a brick! What about the meat golems? I asked. Why are there so many of them? Are they going to wake up and murder us or what? Don't worry about them, he answered. They're unfeeling, unsentient bodies of muscle tissue and meat. They serve two functions. The first is so we can harvest stem cells and organs from a living colony. And the second? Isn't it obvious? The Ors have magnificent appetites. They need food. And, well, they're carnivores. You three are about to be the first of many to witness the strength of these creatures. Their potential for destruction. I've coined a phrase for it that I am actually quite pleased with. Would you like to hear it? The three of us answered at the same time. We all answered differently. No. Yes. Is it gonna be a pun? I call it, he said, pausing for emphasis. Ors power. You son of a bitch, Rosa shouted. I'll kill you! With that, Dr. Orson unlatched the pygmy hippo's cage. It immediately sprang into action, busting the door open and galloping adorably to the meat golem in the center of us. I watched with morbid fascination and horror as the tiny 5-pound-looking hippoling went to town. Its appetite was voracious, like a little demon Pac-Man. It chomped, chomped, chomped until there was nothing left of the body but crumbs. God damn, Jerry shouted. I guess she really was hungry. Why? and lamented, why couldn't it have just been demons? Rosa shot Gordon her best judgment stare and said, so you created those poor creatures just so they can be dissected and eaten? With a smile, Gordon explained, it's actually the most humane thing we could do. They don't have minds, you see. Their brains are the size of marbles, operating only at the minimum level to keep a circulatory system running. Otherwise, they're husks. The late, great French philosopher Descartes was the one who said, I think, therefore I am, and if that's true, then these creatures are not. Forgive me, I would have explained what they were before I introduced you to my creation, except... well, he chuckled to himself before finishing the thought. That would have been putting Descartes before the horse. Rosa actually managed to work off one of her shoes, which she then kicked at the scientist. It nearly whizzed past his head by a matter of inches. The horse turned in a circle a few times, then plopped onto its side and closed its eyes. Gordon started back towards the open door he'd come from. Well, it's been an interesting experience. Should be happy your deaths won't be for nothing. The immobile meat men are one thing, but I can't wait to see just how effective the horse are at devouring a more tactical prey. As he walked past the doorway, I looked back and yelled, Are you seriously going to leave us in here with this thing? Oh, no, you don't understand, he responded, as the door slowly closed. He finished his thought. I'm seriously going to leave you in there with hundreds of those things. The door closed. The green light went off. Then, bing! The light over the next door flashed on, except this one was red. It slowly began to open. Bing! Then another. Bing, bing, bing. Oh, shit. Bing, 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 bing. I could see the horse waddling into the space, congregating, joining forces into a mob that pitter-pattered together, closing in on the smell of food, and I could hear them crunching into the golems, munching the bodies, fighting each other over the limited resources. And then they were closing in. Jerry struggled fiercely against the ropes, but it was no use. Guys, he said, I know it's bad luck to say this, but I might not get out of here alive. Any last words, just in case? I'm really sorry I've been such a downer the last week, I said. Yeah, what's up with that? Rosa asked as the hippos devoured the last of the easy meals. I sighed and explained. I just think that Cooper's a huge piece of shit. Rosa's reaction was sharp and immediate. What the fork? Why would you want to spend your last moments alive saying something awful like that? Yeah, man, Jerry added. It's weird that you let him get under your skin so much. Time to let it go. I can't help it, I said. I'm pissed that he's probably out there filming something that's going to get him rich, while we're in here about to be horse feed. No, he's probably dead, Jerry responded. Well, I thought, I guess I could take some comfort in that. You're right, I conceded. I'm sorry. This might be the gallon of elephant tranquilizers talking, but I love you guys, and I guess I thought that maybe y'all were replacing me, and as far as replacements go, I feel like you could have done a lot better, because the truth is, you look to your friends in times of uncertainty to help make sense of the world, and it's deeply unsettling to learn that your peers have such wildly differing opinions about someone who you know is just the worst kind of person, and when oh my god, one of them is biting me! An Orsling was chomping down on my leg. I braced for the pain, but it never came. Instead, the creature backed up, shook its head, and pounced again, taking my leg into its tiny, powerful, flapping jaws, shredding my jeans in the process until the only thing that showed was metal. All right, I remembered. I was already dispossessed of that leg in an unrelated accident. As luck, if you want to call it that, would have it, the not hippo had bitten into my prosthetic limb first, a choice it seemed to be regretting. But it wouldn't be long before the rest of them reached me, and then Rosa and Jerry. They were all closing in fast. I was out of ideas. Out of hope. Almost out of time. Surprise, motherfuckers! And just like that, I realized things really could get worse. The obnoxious battle cry came from the idiot running up next to me. He punted the baby hippo on my leg with enough force to send it flying. The other animals froze at the sight of him. "I came here to take names and kick horse," said Cooper, bluff charging at the creatures. They immediately spun around and ran in the opposite direction. I stole a look at Rosa's direction. She seemed positively elated to see him. I guess we're okay with puns now. "Yes!" she shouted. "I knew you'd come back!" Jerry did a little dance, or at least he did the best version he could while completely tied to a column, and cheered Cooper on with, "That's my dog right there!" Cooper raced around in the circle. Somehow, just the sight of him was enough to make the horse turn tail and run. Whatever supernatural charm powers he had seemed to cross the interspecies barrier. Whatever. Not my preferred savior, but I guess it beats getting eaten alive by piranha hippos. And then, the most unexpected and horrendous thing happened. Cooper fucking peed on me. "What the unholy fucking shit, dude?" I screamed. Jerry and Rosa laughed. "Calm down," said Jerry. "He's just marking you so the horse know you belong to him." "How is this even reality?" I screamed. "I can understand a monster swarm of government-engineered pygmy hippos, but you three are acting so fucking weird!" Almost as if to demonstrate my point, Cooper got down on all fours and started biting at the ropes around Rosa. "I mean, look at him! What is he even doing now?" "He's trying to free me," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Jerry spoke next. He sounded embarrassed. "Oh my god, you guys, I'm so sorry, I just remembered. I do actually have another pocket knife. They missed this one in my boxers. I think if I could just shift slightly, I might be able to reach it." He grunted and shifted. "Why bother? Just let Cooper untie you," I said. Jerry stopped struggling. He and Rosa shared a confused look. "What?" I asked. "What is it?" Rosa was the one to answer. "Jack, why do you keep talking about Cooper like he's here with us?" I looked at Cooper. He didn't acknowledge the conversation at all. "Because he is?" They shared the same look again. "Isn't he?" The horse swarm had regrouped. The circle was closing in. Cooper ran at them. Their perimeter fell back each time he charged, but not quite as quickly as before, like they were getting braver. Or maybe hungrier. Cooper's intimidation factor was wearing off quickly, and the circle was shrinking. It wouldn't be much longer before the bubble popped, and we were overrun. "Jack!" Rosa shouted. "I think we've had a tragic breakdown in communication over the last week, and we all need to own our parts of it, but right now, we need to stay sane long enough to escape from certain death." "Understood," I said. "I'm ready to ignore my perceived reality long enough to fight another day. But when this is over and the dust is settled, I will have so many questions." "Yeah, yatta!" Jerry exclaimed, jumping up and away from the column and the severed rope, holding his pocket knife triumphantly in the air like Lady Liberty's torch. As he went to retrieve Rosa's lost shoe, one of the horse broke from the front line and raced up to him. Jerry immediately sent it flying like a kickball. "Oh man," Jerry said as he raced over to cut Rosa free. "They're so cute, I almost feel bad about this." The word "almost" was quite the load-bearing adverb, considering he totally punted a few more of them on his way to remove my binds. Once the four of us were up and moving together, I finally saw just how many of these things were down here. Hundreds. Maybe thousands of vicious, precious baby monsters, snortling, waddling, flapping their mouths open and shut like a Langolier feeding frenzy. I also saw something else amongst the sea of horse. "There!" I pointed. About 20 yards ahead. The golf cart. "Don't worry," Cooper declared. "I'll clear us a path." I couldn't believe it. He charged into the thick blanket of horse, waving his arms and screaming. Even more surprising, they actually got out of the way. The swarm parted like the Red Sea. I had to give credit where it was due. That was enormously brave and effective and stupid. We followed closely, quickly. The creatures nipped at our heels, but we managed to stay just out of biting range long enough to pile into the motorized vehicle. Rosa and Jerry fell into the front. He took the wheel, while Cooper and I secured ourselves in the back-facing seats. "Hold on!" Rosa shouted. Jerry cranked the battery-powered engine and kicked the golf cart into gear, speeding us through the swarm at a relaxed 5 miles per hour. Bump, 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 bump. The cart shook back and forth like we were off-roading with a broken suspension. Jerry beeped the horn, but it didn't really do much. The only option was to drive forward and try not to think about how many monster babies we squished along the way. In a matter of minutes, the bumping stopped, and we hit solid pavement. Then the vehicle climbed up to a much more cruisy speed of 10 miles per hour. I watched the horse horde shrink as the distance between us grew. I didn't know where we were going, but I was happy to finally be putting some distance between us and them. If sleep were an option, I probably would have passed out right then and there. "What now?" Rosa asked. "Now we drive until we see an open door," Jerry answered. "What if we never find an open door?" "Then we drive until the battery dies." He didn't speak again until a couple minutes later when he said, "Huh, that's weird." I turned to my seat to get a good look. It was a subtle distinction in the otherwise continuous corridor, but it became clearer as we approached. There was a clear angle in the wall, a break from the flatness, somewhere between a forced left turn and a left veer, and then the hall continued. A couple minutes later, we encountered another. A couple minutes later, it happened again. We were all pretty tired and worn out and focused on finding a single open door amidst the monotony of closed doors, so when we came upon the next angle, none of us were really doing the math. It wasn't until the fifth angle in our path that any of us realized we'd actually just driven in an enormous circle. If you really want to be pedantic, a 540-degree self-enclosed shape is technically a pentagram, but the important thing to note was that we were right back where we started. As soon as we took that last angle, we saw rows of open doors. We also saw one of the 3 soldiers from before, except instead of a gun, he was armed with a push broom. When we came upon him, he was sweeping the bodies of flattened hippos into a big bloody pile. The soldier looked quite surprised to see us back again so soon. He blinked at us, then turned his head. We followed his gaze to the wall where he had propped up his assault rifle. We were all about the same distance from the weapon, a 20-yard dash approximately the length of a bowling lane, and the first one to the finish line might be the last one standing. That's when the battery on the cart finally died. "Cheese it!" Jerry shouted. Leaping out of the driver's seat and racing for the closest open door, the opposite direction from the gun, Rosa jumped off after him. The soldier was already sprinting full speed before the handle of his broom clacked against the floor, but he wasn't going for an interception. He was running away from them. He was going for the weapon. Jerry and Rosa looked like they had a shot of escape, but it would be close. Me and my bum leg, on the other hand, I knew I didn't stand a chance. So I ran the odds and settled on my new strategy. If I could charge the man before he could aim down his sights, it might give my friends an extra second or two to get out in time. "Keep going!" I shouted, rushing away from them to the same destination as the man in tactical gear. Short of an absolute miracle, I wasn't going to walk away from this. But then, out of nowhere, Cooper zoomed past me. He was hoofing it faster than any human I'd ever seen. As soon as the soldier bent down to retrieve his weapon, Cooper pounced and ferociously sank his teeth into the man's jugular. Blood sprayed in every direction as the man flopped to the ground, scream gurgling and trying to push Cooper away. The struggle only lasted for a few seconds before the man went limp. Quiet. "Jack!" Jerry screamed from behind me. I turned to see him standing in the open doorway, throwing something over his shoulder and waving for me to come in. I didn't have time to properly process whatever the fuck that was. I just turned and ran. Did Cooper just... The door led to another set of stairs. Jerry saw that too, right? I didn't imagine that. Those stairs led to another lab full of full meat golems. I thought that was not normal. We should not normalize that kind of behavior. The lab led to another abandoned zoo building, the monkey house, which led us out into warm night air. Somehow Cooper caught up with the rest of us in a flash, blood smeared all over his smiling face, and then we ran back the way we came. On the way to the wall, I noticed exactly what Jerry had grabbed from the underground room. It was a scientist's white backpack. The one from the golf cart. There wasn't any time to ask about it, though. We needed to escape. and sort out all the facts later. We leapt over the wall, hit the other side, then finally took a collective breath of relief. We'd done it. We survived the zoo. We took the first mile back in silence. Jerry and Rosa watched the path for potholes and other tripping hazards. It was harder to see without flashlights. The moon gave us just enough to go off of. Cooper walked next to me, his face coated with drying soldier blood. I kept waiting for someone else to say something, but at long last I was the one to break. He'd saved my life. Maybe it was time to show some grace. I guess I owe you an apology, Cooper. You saved our lives back there. Rosa stopped walking so suddenly I collided with her. She turned around and glared at me. Okay, that's it. Stop, everybody. We gotta hash this out right now. Nothing to hash out, I said. I apologize. We're cool. Right, Cooper? Jerry tucked his thumb beneath the straps of his newly acquired backpack, crinkling his nose at me, and asked, So, is Cooper here with us right now? I returned his look of confusion, darted my eyes between the three of them, and waited to see if Cooper was going to respond. He didn't. Yes? I answered. And how long has Cooper been with us? Rosa asked. Ever since we left the cove? Cooper bit his lip. Geez, this is about to get awkward. Rosa shook her head. No, Jack, we left Cooper at the Airbnb, remember? He said he was too hungover to get out of bed. I did remember that. But then he was there, in our group. They had been interacting with him this whole time. I couldn't have imagined that. Okay, Jerry added. Where is he now, exactly? He's right there. I pointed at Cooper. Jerry gave me a look that I can only describe as cautiously optimistic. Ah, he said. Let the record reflect that Jack is pointing at our dog, Gaston. What? I looked at Cooper. Blonde hair, gray eyes, 6 feet tall. Cooper. And then it hit me. Cooper was a douchey tech bro. How the hell did he know who Kurosawa and Helen Caldecott were? How did he know that the creatures were called the Yorse when he wasn't there for the explanation? Where the hell was Gaston this whole time? The last place I remembered interacting with Gaston was... Oh, shit. A week ago, after we left the cove. Gaston was with us when we went to Sticky's barbecue, and... It all came flooding back to me. The barbecue place was infested with demons. We vanquished them, then fed them to Gaston's spirit void. I thought Rosa got them all with her holy hot sauce, but it seemed that one of them was a bit of a clinger. Not to get too technical, but here's what we figured out must have happened. The demon got caught halfway between our world and the spirit world inside of the dog. Turns out, demons are a lot like turds. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 flushes to get them all the way down. Gaston had been semi-possessed for the last week by an entity that manifested in my mind as the most recent annoying person I'd encountered. And even though Gaston looked perfectly normal to everyone else, I was seeing him as Cooper, and he was feeding off my negative energy. Suddenly, a lot of things made a lot more sense. So when Gaston was jumping all over me and trying to lick my face, Rosa said through a laugh of pure relief, you thought it was Cooper? Jerry laughed along. And when I let Gaston sit on my lap and eat french fries out of my mouth, mama bird style to baby bird style, you thought I was letting Cooper eat fries out of my mouth? I told you guys, I thought you were acting weird. Oh, Jerry snapped his fingers. At that time, Gaston shit in the back of the van, you thought Cooper shit in the back of the van. Rosa chimed in. No wonder you're freaking out so much about that. I know, right? I laughed, barely holding back tears. You guys acted like I was being crazy. Sometimes laughter is the best medicine. And we all had a good hearty chuckle when we finally figured it out. Well, all of us except the demon, who begged me not to send him the rest of the way to the void. But that's just what demons do. We took a moment or so we could bless a nearby puddle, then doused our dog in the holy water, sending Cooper imposter demon the rest of the way out of our realm. I felt better instantly. To celebrate, I gave Gaston a big hug, and even let him lick my face. I'm really happy it worked out, but don't forget, Rosa cautioned, he's still covered in stagnant water and human blood. I don't even care, I said. I'm just so happy things are back to normal. Except for, the part where we're all broke. With an ominous smile, Jerry announced, I might have something to help with that. Oh? Asked Rosa. Yeah, I took a little souvenir from Dr. Gordon's golf cart. And with that, he slid one arm out of the backpack strap and spun it around. Well. I was wondering where my bag went. The voice from the tree line caught us all off guard. We turned to see that this entire celebration had been premature. Dr. Gordon, the Orseman Orson, was standing there pointing a gun at us. Not a tranquilizer gun, an honest-to-goodness Glock. His white coat was smeared red with fresh blood. The look on his face was somewhere between bemusement and rage. How the hell did you beat us here? Are you serious? He answered. I have an underground city and so many golf carts. I've been waiting for you next to your car for half an hour. I got bored and came to find out what was taking so long. I explained, well, our dog had a half-demon stuck in him. Dr. Gordon took a long, deep breath through his nose, then asked, What? And Jerry reiterated, What part of our dog had half a demon stuck, don't you understand? Never mind, the scientist said. I'm just gonna kill you. Wait, Jerry shouted, unzipping the bag. You can't shoot us. Why not, Mr. Pascal? Because I have some very important information you'll want to hear. You're stalling. No, I'm not. I can prove it. Fine. What's the information? First, you want to know where I heard this information. I haven't got all night. Came from an extremely reliable source. Oh, God, I thought. Is this going where I think it's going? Rosa! A whisper yelled. Cover your ears! What source? The scientist asked impatiently. Where did this information come from? Jerry reached into the backpack, looked up, and said, Straight from the horse's mouth. With that, he pulled out the still sleeping horse creature. Dr. Gordon lowered his weapon and shrieked, My baby! Catch! Jerry yelled, tossing it into the air. In the half-second between the moment it was airborne and the moment it latched onto the mad scientist's face, the pygmy hippo awakened and went into full feeding mode. The scientist screamed and tried to grab it off, but the horse made quick work of its creator, munching away through his skin and bone and brain. By the time the scientist's body landed, the hippo had already consumed his entire head. Rosa punched Jerry hard in the arm, exclaiming, You had that in your backpack the entire time? Thought it would be useful, Jerry explained, and I guess I was right. The horse stopped chewing, then turned to face us. We collectively flinched. With a sickening burp, an eyeball popped out of its throat and rolled across the dirty road. With that, the horse waddled away from the headless horseman and over to an open sewer drain against the sidewalk, where it quickly squeezed on through, never to be seen again. Oh, I said, that could be really bad for the local ecosystem. What now? Asked Rosa. Jerry walked over to the doctor's beheaded body, picked up his gun, then fished out his wallet. There were about $600 cash inside, along with 4 new Finders Keepers credit cards, which we would end up using to replace our phones. Now, Jerry answered, to get the hell out of this one-horse town. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video or for listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. It's a brand new year, which means a brand new time for content. We're doing our best to bring you the newest things. I know in 2024 I had released less videos than I ever had any year in the last 14 years, but hey, as things start to piece themselves back together, so do I. So I will be seeing you guys a bit more in this year, I promise you. And as always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody who supports me over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you guys so much for being supporters. That goes for everybody who was down in the description, as well as AcidSystem, BallarmsTheRat, Blake Rattler, Brandon Mendoza, Brenna, BrimstonePandemonium, Caltuna, Chainsmoker Dealer, ChicagoHitman, CoryxKenshin, Cronut508, CrusaderChocobo, CursepoxPrimarch, Dakota Best, Daniel Poulsen, Dante Kinkade, Diana Kraus, Ellie Hutmire, Enchanted Buns, Estebean, Gemma, HIDive nephew, himbojerry, hourminsec, Jay Keems, Jedis Pet, Jordan Humble, King Crab, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Old Penguin, Peaceful Buddha, Psychomel, Red Shadowcat, Remember the Sun, Rinku Star, Salty Surprise, Samara Line, Seclude, Simba's Bloody Mojo, Sky Harbor, Smiley the Psychotic, Sullyman, Tali Sue, the Chavez Brothers. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And sweet dreams.